All right, Jerome Powell in the news. This is breaking news. He has given his two-day testimony in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and he was asked by one of the committee members, hey, what do you think about that new theory that we could spend and fund all these projects like the Green New Deal by running up the budget deficit? And he said, I think that is wrong, and these are extreme claims. And the Fed is not in a position to facilitate this. Basically, that's what he said. So he said, I think this is wrong. He didn't give any justification or reason why it is wrong. The Fed, he himself or any researcher on the Fed can look at the Fed's own data, and they will see that, for example, in 1980, when the debt was $800 billion and now it's $22 trillion. So what is that, a 25-fold increase in the debt over that period of time? That interest rates went from 20% to 0, and inflation went from like 13-14% to barely, what, 2% now, under 2%, even though we had a 25-fold increase in the debt. These are data coming from the Fed itself that they could easily look at. So he did not give any justification. He just said, I think it is wrong. That is his ideological opinion. It's not surprising. He comes from mainstream economics, that neoclassical background, which got everything wrong and continues to get everything wrong. So he gave no justification. Now, on the Fed not facilitating this, basically, I think what he said kind of ignores the fact that the Fed is precluded by law, by statute, from buying anything from the Treasury. The Fed cannot give the Treasury any money. The Fed buys government securities from the secondary market. Those are securities that have already been bought and are owned by private individuals and institutions. And though they were bought with the dollars that come from government spending itself that pile up in the banking system and are then used to purchase treasuries. So I don't know what he was talking about or referring to there. But I have to say this, that the MMT leadership now, the people who are out there, and I have to give them a lot of credit in one regard, and that is, you know, MMT is blowing up in the news everywhere. We see it everywhere. I've been involved in this for 18 years. It was a fringe little tiny thing. I was out there years ago on Fox talking about this, getting laughed at. It got zero attention, but now it is everywhere. It is everywhere in the mainstream media, everywhere. You got Powell talking about it even. So I give them a lot of credit for that. But where they painted themselves into a corner, these MMT people, is talking about deficits. It is not about the deficit. It is about the spending. The spending is not constrained in any way by the need to collect taxes. The deficit could be the same as it is right now. As a matter of fact, the budget can be balanced and you could still do these programs if the level of taxation was such that it kept the deficit at a certain level. Remember, the deficit is what is left over after the spending and the taxation. That is the financial balances, the financial savings, if you will, of the non-government. All right, so that's what's left over. That is ex post accounting. That is just what's left over. That doesn't fund anything. That is what's left over after the spending. So if you're spending $1 trillion to do health care for all, and if you're taxing $1 trillion, you got a zero deficit. Now, the financial balances of the non-government would not have gone up in that case. Okay, well, maybe the foreign sector will contribute. That's what Trump's trying to do with getting the foreign sector demand to go up. The MMT people have painted themselves into a corner, into a defensive posture by saying the deficits will fund these things. It's not the deficit that will fund anything. It is the spending that will fund it. All right? The deficit's going to be whatever it's going to be. It doesn't even have to go up. I don't know why they keep talking about they put themselves in a defensive position, and that's unfortunate. But what Powell said is his opinion. He gives no justification or explanation. He just says, I think it's wrong, yet there's mountains of evidence as to why it is not wrong from the Fed's own data and own research. And so, yeah. But of course, you know, the headlines will run with this. You saw it on Zero Hedge already, which is not surprising. That is a hard money Austrian gold bug, doom and gloom, deficits are going to cause the end of the world type of blog. So of course you're going to see it on there. But he gave no justification for it. And basically he gave his opinion. He spouted dogma and ideology. And, you know, that's pretty much par for the course. That's how the mainstream attacks the ideas in MMT. But I will say once again that the MMT people right now who are out there, they're wrongly focusing on deficits and they weaken their own arguments by doing that. You should have me out there doing it.